morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on beautiful Marcus Street in Corning. We received a lot of comments over the weekend from last week's shows. We're going to start off with that. As always, you can contact me. You see the number on the bottom of the screen. Reach out. Have your opinion heard on the program. So we start with this quote. This is from a viewer, by the way. In my opinion, Biden's decision to run again in his current state is proof of his inability to be cognizant enough to govern when this country is balancing on such a pinhead of major national and world-changing issues. Continuing. As for Chris Christie, he only serves himself and probably the Democrats. It plays to the Democrats' advantages. I would say Chris Christie is looking for some type of, job as a talking head on CNN maybe, or an MSNBC. His goal was to be out there just to, let me see. Everything sounding okay? Let me see. I might have forgot something. Okay, hold on. I know what I did. Hold on, 1 second. 1 second here. All right. There we go. Okay. I got this checklist, and there's this one thing I forgot to do. So I apologize that there was no sound. That was on me. That was not a technical issue. We should be sounding good now. Let me know if you wouldn't mind. And I'm going to start back over. All right. Now we got it. Now we're good. We're getting waves coming in. All right. Checking audio. Is everything good? I think we're good now. So welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We're broadcasting from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. One part of my checklist I forgot to do, and I apologize. That's why we had a little bit of no audio there at the beginning. Thank you for bearing with us. That's on me. So we're just learning the ropes here. But everything else is smooth, if I do say so myself. Okay, we're going to go through some conversations that I received over the weekend from last week's show. You can reach out at any time. You see the number on the bottom of your screen. Reach out at any point. We start with this. In my opinion, Biden's decision to run again in his current state is proof of his inability to be cognizant enough to govern when this country is balancing on such a pinhead of major national and world-changing issues. That's a fair point. That seems to be a point that both Republicans and Democrats are making. We had that talk show host last week who said something to the extent of, I feel that Biden saying that he's running because Trump is running is like saying that Biden will step in and help you in a bar fight. That the person said, I appreciate the sentiment, but I don't like our chances. But I'll continue. As for Chris Christie, he only serves himself and probably to Democrats' advantage. His personal goal is to keep his income coming in at any cost. Doesn't the government still match campaign funds? That's a good point. I think Chris Christie's looking more for that talking head job on like a CNN, an MSNBC. He's definitely ego-driven. He has been his whole career. I don't think I'm going out on a limb saying anything inappropriate there. I think he is very much about Chris Christie. It's kind of like a Joe Scarborough, if you will. Always changing politically, being politically expedient to keep those paychecks coming in. Okay, next comment. Oh, look at this. Look at all the... Yeah, everybody's saying it sounds good. We're getting virtual waves. Thank you so much. Next, this is from a different viewer. Last week, I had mentioned that Melania Trump, it is reported, anonymous sources, of course, but it's reported that Melania Trump would like to see former President Donald Trump pick Tucker Carlson as his running mate. And I asked the question, would you support that decision? Would you like Tucker Carlson to be the VP choice? I would have my reservations, but many people said and echoed this statement. Tucker would add another dimension and awareness to the entire campaign. He would be the voice of the silent majority. Well, and I don't, how do I say this? I think that's kind of Trump's role, right? Isn't that what Trump runs on, being the voice of the silent majority, the forgotten men and women? That's why he was so successful the first go around. Okay, next, before we go to break. Man, we're moving along already. These are all comments from viewers. Again, you can reach out on the bottom of your screen. There's a phone number. Leave me a voicemail if you're not a texter. And I will try to get to that before the end of the program. Okay. Next, Frank, just got my NYSEG bill today. Uh-oh. Which reminded me, are you going to have a program with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano on New York State energy? Is that still in the works for you, as you mentioned, after the election? I have plenty of questions I'd like to ask. Yes, that is still in the works. Let me explain why that hasn't happened yet. That has absolutely nothing to do with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. He is eager to be on the program and spend the full show talking about that. It's been more of my schedule, meaning we had those technical issues. I just want to make sure, because we've highlighted it for so long, that it was 100%. And yes, he is very eager to do the program and do a program specifically on energy. So I will keep you updated on that. We're actually going to talk to the Assemblyman later in the week. I'm going to stop over and say hi when they're ringing the bell. If you remember, the Salvation Army does a competition between Republican and Democrats, and it's a friendly competition. They don't even read the numbers at the end of the day. It's just more to help the Salvation Army. So I'll go over there, say hi, and see when we can get something on the books. And also, I believe he'll be stopping in for our big telethon, which you may have seen the commercial for, which is on Friday. We've got to take our first break. When we come back, to tie in with what that gentleman said, it's not New York State energy, but it's at the national scene. A few things that I think will concern you if you got your NYSEG bill, I think will concern you even more after you hear these. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. We're getting extra noise in there, and I think I know the problem. And what it is, I know. I'm getting back to my screen here. We're learning a few things on the go, folks. Stay with me. Okay. I think it was an ad playing on one of the articles that I have up on the screen. That is weird. Okay. Here we go. Back at it. So I mentioned at the federal level, there's been some, I guess you could say, energy issues. We know where President Biden stands, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But did you realize with the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that passed back in 2021, that it had a part in there that gave $7.5 billion, yes, $1 billion, to build 500,000 public charging stations across the country. Under the program, states can qualify for as much as 80% of the cost to build chargers and bring them online. But Politico reported last week not a single charger funded by the program is yet operational. $7.5 billion. Now, I bring this up because the push for electric vehicles, which has not been welcomed by the auto industry, as we saw recently, but also what that will do for the grid. So I saw this piece from Stephen Moore this morning at the New York Post, and I thought it was very, very troubling, to say the least. President Biden just pledged to shut down 60% of America's electric power. The Biden administration made two virtue signaling proclamations at last week's COP28 conference in Dubai. It says it'll help save the planet. The policies aren't likely to change the planet's temperature by even 1/10 of a degree, but they might just destroy the 21st century American industrial economy as we know it. First, Team Biden announced it will stop production of all new coal plants in the United States. That comes on the heels of President Biden's Environmental Protection Agency saying this year it would impose new power plant emissions regulations that are virtually impossible for coal plants to comply with. The bottom line, no more coal, period. But the White House was just getting started. Vice President Harris, the next day, talked about the new rules to, quote, sharply reduce methane from the oil and natural gas industry. The administration calls methane a super pollutant. It wants to eliminate because it's, quote, many times more potent than carbon dioxide. But methane is effectively a hydrocarbon that comes from natural gas. Eliminating methane is a de facto ban on natural gas power plants. Now, here's the most sinister part, according to Stephen Moore. No one in the Biden administration is telling you this. Eradicating coal and natural gas plants will ravage America's power capacity. These regulations will cause rolling blackouts and brownouts across the country, like we've seen in California and elsewhere. The lights will go out, and home heating in the winter and air conditioning in the summer will have to be turned off or rationed. And this goes back to what we talked about in the past. And I don't say this lightly. It will lead to death. If you think about in our area, rural area, what that will do in the winter if you lose your heat. Upwards of 60% of America's electric power generation will go away, and soon. Coal still provides roughly 20% of our electric power. Natural gas supplies around 40%. So you can find that piece at the New York Post. That all ties in with what that viewer had to say, so I really appreciate it. We've got to take another short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
Ultra9.com. That's Ultra9.com. Order now. 50 or visit Ultra9.com. That's Ultra9.com.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Akeman. I think I'm starting to understand why we see a little bit of that double audio. So I appreciate here on WYDC sticking with us as we work out just some of the kinks. So we have to talk about, I know we're jumping around quite a bit this audio, so quite a bit about as we work out just some of the kinks. So we have the university president that was ousted, if you will. Man, that congressional hearing. So we was not a good look for academics. One awful university president down. Most of U.S. academia to go, says the New York Post editorial board. One awful university president down. If only it were most of that U.S. easy. Academia. Yes, Harvard's Claudine Gay and MIT's Sally Kornbluth ought to follow make easy. Yes, Harvard's Board of Trustees and quitting after three presidents' disgraceful performance at last week's House hearing on campus anti-Semitism. But the problem's not just these three, nor is it just anti-Semitism. The rot in U.S. academia, but the problem's far deeper than not just these three, nor is it just anti-Semitism. Okay, hold on, we're getting in. The rot in U.S. academia. So give me, it's far deeper than not. Okay, hold on here. Let's see if that does it. There's this button that keeps clicking, and I'm not sure why it keeps doing that. We'll work on that after the fact. I think, unless I hear differently, the echo has gone away. And if you could let me know, I know we got a lot of people watching, and I appreciate it. I think it is better. No? Yeah, no, I'm told it's the echo has gone away. Has it or has it not? It's good now. Thank you, everybody. Hey, working out the bugs. It's all right. This is fun. This is live TV. Okay, so back to the university presidents. Also, there's starting to be some in the media that suggest this is a threat to free speech, that these presidents are losing their jobs, which is interesting now that the media and those in academia are very outspoken about free speech at this moment, isn't it? Not so much, and many people have said the Washington Post has this piece, Penn president's resignation stirs debate about limits of free speech. Magel's resignation, a loss for free speech, predicting that it will imperil the rights of students and professors to speak their minds as donors and politicians step in to shape campus codes of conduct and discussion. University leaders are already balancing policies, favoring full and free campus debate with the need to protect students and faculty from violence and harassment, an all too real threat in the current discourse that has affected people on both sides of the conflict in recent weeks. So now this is a freedom of speech issue, calling for the genocide of Jewish people, threatening Jewish people on campus, the real fear the Jewish people are experiencing as they go to class or they're just in the privacy of their dorms is that's considered free speech on college campuses now. But if a conservative is invited to give a lecture, doesn't seem to be as much call for free speech, does there? How many times do we have stories of conservatives being shouted down, attacked? Stephen Hayward at the Post says that firing the Ivy League presidents should only be the beginning. First, college administrations are terrified of the campus left, both the faculty and grievance-mongering student groups. Second, college administrators don't take the campus left seriously. How to square these seemingly contradictory positions? Consider the number of academic leaders doing their best Claude Rains act, professing to be shocked, just shocked, to discover there is anti-Semitism on their campus. Berkeley Law Dean Erwin Chemerinsky, who is Jewish, wrote in late October, "Nothing has prepared me for the anti-Semitism I see on college campuses now." We brought this up at the time, where it's almost the recognition of this, which has been brewing for a long time, was too little too late. Many other senior academic figures, including former Harvard Law President Larry Summers, have said much to the same. And he goes through the history, and we don't have time for it all because I already have to take another short break, and I also want to test that out and see if my theory is right on that, why we're having echo and like that. But he goes in and says, the thought regular faculty in mainstream departments regard these anti-Semitic remarks as benign neglect. This is true even among many liberal professors who will admit in whispers they know most of the radicalized faculty, people like Ibram X. Kendi, are third-rate thinkers. Worse, these third-rate thinkers can sense they aren't respected, which further fuels their social justice rage. And he's suggesting that it's the social justice causes, the decolonization, these type of things that have led, which has been common on college campuses, these protests for a long time, have led to this, and it just builds up. The momentum builds up, and the anger and the hate. And after hounding students and faculty for the offenses of misgendering someone or committing other absurd microaggressions, university administrators are revealed as hypocrites and fools. Firing a few presidents sends a nice signal, but nothing is going to change on campus until universities start closing mediocre, politicized departments and laying off the radical faculty that generated this anti-Semitic attitude. America once helped Germany denazify its universities after World War II. So it's not like we don't know how to do it in this country. All right, let's take another short break. We'll see how this goes. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Everything seems to be going a little bit smoother this morning. We're working out some of the kinks. Thank you so much for joining us. We are broadcasting live from the Heselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. And I'm just trying to see if we're getting any echo there. If you could let me know. I know that's been kind of a common theme this morning, but it seems to be getting better. Okay, let's go to a few other issues. There's a piece that we're not going to have time to get to, but I kind of want to mention it. Did you hear about this woman who just went crazy at Chipotle, where she saw something wrong with her meal and threw this hot food at the employees? Well, according to Nicole Jelinas, what happened is an obscure municipal judge in Ohio made national headlines last week because the judge sentenced this offender to work at a fast food joint in lieu of prison. And Nicole makes a suggestion that this type of clueless, out of touch enlightenment points up why Democrats are struggling to maintain any shred of their working class voting base against Donald Trump. And I think this is a good point. What the argument is that Nicole is making is when a judge basically tells you there's no difference between jail and work, it shows you their mindset towards the working class. The judge ruling stemmed from a September misdemeanor assault in a Cleveland suburb. 39-year-old Rosemary Hain was displeased with her order and flung a bowl of hot food at the counter worker. She pleaded guilty and faced up to 180 days in jail with half of it suspended, which is a reasonable penalty. But the judge, Democrat Tim Gilligan wanted to show how creative he is in teaching a, quote, sense of empathy. So he told Haines she could serve 60 days of her jail sentence, not in jail, but in a fast food restaurant, working 20 hours a week. Well, who's going to want to hire somebody with anger issues and only for 2 months? This is very strange. The sentence sends a message to the 4.7 million Americans who work in fast food, quote, your job is no better than being in jail. That's what this judge is signaling to the world. Now, we don't have to go through all this, but many people, they don't work in fast food to learn how to throw bowls of food at other people. They work in fast food to earn a living, whether as an end in itself or to save money for trade school or college. Many work their way up within their company. But even at her sentencing, Haines was still lamenting the quality of her fast food. Can you imagine? So someone's going to hire this lady? Calling the food disgusting. So she didn't learn her lesson. What do you think would learn a better lesson? The jail time or working at a fast food counter? Nobody wants to work with someone who could turn violent, including toward the customer, at the slightest provocation. Gilligan seems to have no clue that even entry-level employers have some rationality in their hiring process. They don't have to take all comers. Most employers aren't even going to hire someone who intends to work only for 2 months. Good point. He likely wouldn't sentence a bank robber to work at a bank or a patient who attacked a doctor to start performing surgeries. Why does he think the fast food industry is naturally part of the criminal justice system? He claims the motivation is to deter others from this type of behavior. But why would it? And, you know, they go through this, and I said I wasn't going to mention it, but I'll go through the whole thing. But I think they raise a really good point in here that fast food workers, retail, have seen what we've all seen in New York and elsewhere, this public safety issue where they have real threats that they have to deal with working in fast food and retail, where there's this new trend of people just going ballistic, essentially. But anyway, learning that a Democrat judge thinks their workplaces are interchangeable with jails, meaning fast food with jails, is hardly going to send these voters back to the polls to vote for Biden again next fall. Yes, the insult. I thought that was a very good point. Not something we would normally bring up, but I thought nonetheless worth mentioning. Okay, so let me just see how I'm doing on time here now that we're getting all the bugs worked out. Again, thank you to everybody who reached out. You see the number on the bottom of your screen. I did get it this time. Thank you. Everything is good. Look at all these comments. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I do really appreciate it, and you can always reach out with comments on the stories. So did you see that Hillary Clinton, according to NBC News, Hillary Clinton is stepping out as a key player in Biden's reelection effort? There's been a lot of criticism of Biden's campaign thus far by Democrats, that he's been too quiet, hasn't been forceful enough. Many people are concerned that he's going to try to run as he did last time, which was from the proverbial basement, which kind of became a cliche, but it was factually accurate. And they don't believe there's enough momentum behind him at this time that would be successful. You see the polls, very troubling for the president. A lot of people in his inner circle concerned, according to news reports, all, of course, speaking on anonymity. But Clinton is popular with women in key parts of the Democrat base and remains a fundraising draw who can help ensure Biden has the money to get his message out. I don't know if this is, I don't want to say wishful thinking from the media, but I'm not sure why you would think Hillary Clinton, who lost to Barack Obama, virtually unknown, only 2 years in the Senate, politician, and then lost to Trump. I don't know if that is, but I guess if no one else is willing to do it, it doesn't seem like Biden's campaign is going to put him out at too many rallies or too many events where he can speak off the cuff, because we've seen as of late that is not where Biden should be. Clinton's role is only expected to grow in the new year, but for now she is filling a space that at a later point in the campaign will be taken over by President Barack Obama. Obama's habit is to plunge in closer to Election Day, a reality that rankles some Democrat strategists who say the party sorely needs him right now. Biden and Clinton have not always been close, as you know, but anyway, a Democrat strategist, again, speaking on conditions of anonymity, said, at the end of the day, Biden needs all the help that he can get. What he needs is both the spirit and the actual reality of unity. Yeah, and the polls just keep getting worse for the president. I know, and we're going to talk about it, I know that there's a lot of discussion about Nikki Haley being able to defeat Biden by something like 17 points. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But since we talked about one person who lost the presidency, to be fair here, let's talk about, well, I guess you could say the other party in the same scenario, Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney, and I would say, no, what's the term I want to use? There's a political term where it's called a useful idiot, but it's not just political. People use it in daily life too, probably. But where he is being used or manipulated maybe by people that do not like him. This coming from an interview with NBC. We know Romney had an opinion piece with CNN quite a while ago. Those people treated him in those media outlets like garbage when he ran for president, but he wants to be liked by them so much. He wants to be a kingmaker. So now he's doing the same thing he did during the Trump-Clinton run, which is don't vote for Trump, vote for Clinton if you have to. And then, of course, we know later when Trump won, Mitt Romney, always politically expedient, wanted a position in the cabinet. Very embarrassing. But now he says, or he doesn't rule out, I should put it that way, that he will vote for Biden. Asked by Kristen Welker if he'd vote for Biden, given what he said about Trump, Romney said, "I'm not going to describe who I'll rule out other than President Trump. I think we agree that we have looked at his behavior," meaning Trump, "and his behavior suggests this is a person who will impose his will if he can on the judicial system, on the legislative branch, and on the entire nation." And then just to add more to this, she asked him about President Biden and potential impeachment, and Mitt Romney said, "No, I didn't see any evidence of high crimes and misdemeanors at all. I think before you begin an impeachment inquiry, you ought to have some evidence, some inclination that there's been wrongdoing. And so far, there's nothing of that nature that's been provided." So she specifically asked, did you oppose then, or do you oppose the impeachment inquiry? He said, "Well, if I were in the House, I'd vote against it unless they were able to bring forward evidence that suggests there was a high crime or misdemeanor that has been committed. But so far, that hasn't been the case." We're not done with Romney, unfortunately. We'll talk more about what he had to say over the weekend when we come back, but we need to take a short break, so stay with us. This is, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. Maybe no. Nope. Hold on. We will be right back. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on beautiful Market Street. You saw that view, our roof cam, just a moment ago. I want to remind you, before we go back to Mitt Romney here, don't forget Friday's a very special edition of Frankly Speaking. It's going to start at 6. It's 2 hours. And it is a way to raise funds for the Salvation Army of Corning. We've got a ton of special guests. It's going to be a lot of great music. It's going to be very, very festive. So I hope that you will join us for that. That starts at 6 a.m. this Friday. Do not miss it. Okay. Mitt Romney. Now, you have heard my concerns over and over again about Nikki Haley. Not as a person, not as a Republican necessarily, but when you have the mainstream media propping her up or almost showing support for her, people that never want to see Republicans win, telling us how we can win, it just raises red flags, and that's not necessarily fair to Nikki Haley. I'm just telling you that we've seen it too many times in the past, whether it be Romney, whether it be McCain, Bob Dole. Well, Romney adds to my list of concerns, and it is this. Again, from NBC, place that did not like Mitt Romney, but now he's more than willing to go on there. And if you badmouth a Republican as a Republican, and I will say John McCain made a career out of this, you become a, quote, maverick. You get invited to a lot of media outlets to say what you want to say because they can use you for their agenda. So Mitt Romney gets invited on NBC. And Kristen Welker said, "Let's turn now to 2024 race as you bring up former President Trump. Why haven't you endorsed a candidate yet, Senator? And do you plan to do so?" He said, well, because if I endorse someone, it would be the kiss of death. Should I endorse the person I like least right now? So he realizes his unpopularity. He said, I'm not going to be endorsing President Trump, obviously. I've made that very clear. Look, Chris Christie has done a terrific job so far, which proves my point of what Chris Christie's been there for, which is just to be an attack dog on Trump, and that would be something that Mitt Romney would very much support. I think his being in the race has kept Donald Trump from coming to the debates. That is such a weak argument that people made. There was no upside to the former president joining these debates and punching down. There is no upside. But see, they're going with this line because they think it'll get under the former president's skin, which is, oh, he's scared of Chris Christie. Why would you be scared of Chris Christie? We've seen his shtick play out now for how long? Continuing, though. Because I think Donald Trump recognizes if he went to the debate with Chris Christie would reveal him for what he was. And Trump would be badly hurt. So he stayed out. It's talking points like that, or what he believes to be politically brilliant like that obviously cost him the election. Maybe that's why he decided not to go in. What was the topic where during the debate, the moderator corrected Mitt Romney. The moderator was wrong. Mitt Romney was right. But instead of being forceful and going after the moderator and Barack Obama, he cowered. We saw that in the past. He has went after Trump much more than he ever went after his opponent, Barack Obama. So it's his attitudes like that to show why we're not going to turn to Mitt Romney for winning strategy. But I will continue. Romney added, Nikki Haley, she's rising. Right now, I think she's the only one that has a shot at becoming the nominee other than President Trump. It's a long shot on her part, but she's the one that has a shot. So we will see. And that goes into what I was saying. We have a comment from a viewer. Some polls are coming out suggesting that Nikki Haley would beat Biden by 17 points. That's coming from the Wall Street Journal. Haley, in a hypothetical one-on-one matchup with President Joe Biden, currently has a remarkable 17-point lead, 51-34, should the matchup materialize and the margin hold. It would represent the largest winning general margin since 1984, when Reagan topped Mondale by 18 points. And just to point out, Trump did not do that bad in this poll either. While the Journal poll makes Haley an overwhelming favorite against Biden, it also shows former President Donald Trump faring well in his own right. The survey gives Trump a 4-point advantage over Biden, 47-43. It even finds that if Trump were convicted of a felony, he would still only trail Biden by a single point. The poll puts DeSantis dead even with Biden. And what a viewer had to say is, talk about manipulation. No president would lose by 17 points. It is just the media trying to get people to not support Trump. The sheep have left their herd. Deal with it, smiley face. I do think there is a lot of manipulation by the media in this race. Obviously, they do not want to see Trump become president again. They're obviously concerned how Biden is running his campaign. So you tie those things in together. And again, this is not to constantly bash Nikki Haley, because I like Nikki Haley. I'm just saying there's a reason why they're pushing her this hard. The people that do not want to see Republicans ever win an election. We're going to talk about Trump when we come back. We've got a lot to get to. I hope we can get to all of it. This show's moving fast, and we're having fun because we're back on live from the Hesselson's studio. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We'll receive this comment from a viewer. As you know, we're working out the kinks on Frankly Speaking here on WYDC. I think it's going smooth. We had a couple audio issues. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We'll receive this comment from a viewer. As you know, now we've had a couple audio issues and we're trying to deal with it. It's some extra, layers in the program that we use. So I appreciate this comment. I realize now you are controlling the breaks and commercial feeds along with learning new equipment. It's like the guy on the Ed Sullivan Show spinning plates on the end of sticks to circus music. Once you get used to the new equipment, all will go great, I'm sure. Well, thank you for that. And I'd like to agree. We just have to learn a little bit on the fly. And that's what's fun about live TV, right? That it's all live. You're seeing all the magic behind the scenes as well, which sometimes isn't so magical. Kevin McCarthy endorsed the former president and said that this weekend he was willing to serve in the president's cabinet. This was on CBS's Sunday Morning. They asked him as simple as this: will Donald Trump be the nominee? And if you look at the polls, I don't know how you could see anything else. But he said yes. In the Republican Party, yes. If Biden stays as the nominee for the Democrats, I believe Donald Trump will win. I believe the Republicans will gain more seats in the House and the Republicans will win the Senate. So Costa says, can Trump count on your support? And of course, McCarthy says, yes. I will support the president. I will support President Trump. So Costa tried to ask, is that an endorsement? I mean, what else is that? So he then goes back in and said, would you be willing to serve in Trump's cabinet? McCarthy said, in the right position. Look, if I'm the best person for the job, yes. Look, I worked with President Trump on a lot of policies. We worked together to win the majority, but we also have a relationship where we're very honest with one another. Now, Trump, according to CNN of all places, Trump is even stronger than he looks against his Republican rivals. Polls continue to show Donald Trump with a massive lead over his competition. That's why you're seeing so much support coming out for the Nikki Haley's and others. Yet many of his opponents continue to hold their fire against the former president. According to Harry Enton from CNN, that's a mistake. The problem with this plan is it won't work. Trump's rivals have to do something different to knock him off his perch. Unlike in 2016, where there were signs that he could be defeated in a one-on-one contest, which never actually happened, Trump holds major advantages this time around. He's up by more than 40 points nationally when polled against his closest rival, which is still Ron DeSantis. More than that, he is pulling in greater than 60% of the Republican vote. Even if his rivals were able to consolidate into one super candidate, Trump would still win majority support. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about some recent polls, and we're going to wrap through a lot of things right here at the end. So please stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. We are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken, broadcasting from the Hasselson Studio here on Marcus Street in Corning, live from the Hasselson Studio. So Trump leads Biden in Michigan and Georgia as broad majorities hold a negative view of the current president. This is one reason why you're seeing more and more articles that are showing that Democrats are concerned and even scared about the president's chances. But boy, it's December 11th. Many have said it's too late now, even if he did want to drop out. Just the logistics of it are not feasible. But former President Donald Trump has the upper hand over President Joe Biden in two critical battleground states, Michigan and Georgia, with broad majorities in both states holding negative views of the sitting president's job, performance, policy position, and sharpness. That's been a major concern. His health, of course. And I mean, rightfully so. It's not as if Republicans are, what's the term I'm looking for, manipulating that information. You see it with your own eyes when you see the president give a speech. But again, we show that the numbers are consistent towards Trump doing well against Biden. So that is our quick look at everything presidential. Oh, I did want to remind you of a couple things. Well, let's start with this. I know I keep promoting it, but I want to one last time for this program. Friday is the 2-hour edition of Frankly Speaking, and that is to benefit the Salvation Army of Corning. We're going to have Christmas music, a lot of special guests, wink, wink. You have to wait and stay tuned for that. We're going to have a kettle out front if you'd like to donate in person. We'll also have numbers on the bottom of the screen that you can contact and text donations because you'll see during the broadcast the amazing work of the Salvation Army of Corning and all that they do for our community. So I thought, what a nice opportunity to get in the Christmas spirit and have a special holiday broadcast of Frankly Speaking. Okay, so do we have time for this? Let me take our last break. I didn't take our last break, right? Yep. Let me take our last break, and then we'll wrap things up here on Frankly Speaking. So please stay with us. We'll be right back. We are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. We're having fun this morning. Working out some of the kinks. Where's that music coming from? Oh, I know what it is. Hold on real quick. All right. I'm glad we didn't have feedback there. All right, now we are back. 2023, according to Thera Coleman, was the year of the loneliness epidemic. The looming threat of a loneliness crisis began surfacing long before this year. Still, the issue took center stage after a report from the U.S. Surgeon General declaring an epidemic of loneliness and isolation. A lot of this ties in with kind of what was left over from the COVID-19 pandemic. Loneliness is a familiar sentiment for many people. It's like hunger or thirst. It's a feeling the body sends us when something we need for survival is missing. Okay, so why do I bring this up? Not to depress you, but I bring it up because according to The Sun, we're ending on a weird note here, folks. According to The Sun, out of the United Kingdom, the 8 habits the happiest people in the world swear by. This is what, according to, again, The Sun, this is what will make you happy. Okay, here we go. Ready? Number 1, sleep at least 8 hours. So you have to get your 8 hours in. Okay. 2, eat a plant-based breakfast, not the sugary cereal or a big fatty breakfast. You're going to be hungry by midday. You're going to have less energy throughout the day. 3, socialize. Socializing daily is key to being happy, according to health guru Dan. Make sure you have coffee with a friend. You have lunch with a friend. You want to make sure to engineer in 4 to 5 hours, or 6 if you can, of social interaction with people you like. So now you've got, let's say, 6 hours with people that you like. You've got 8 hours of sleep, reading into a pretty good chunk of the day. Then he wants you to volunteer. Find a little time to give back every day. Worldwide, statistically speaking, volunteers are happier than non-volunteers. Take a nap. Work part-time if you can. See, that's what it boils down to. Work part-time if you can. Yeah, that would be nice. Have faith and limit TV and social media. That is it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow morning starting at 7 right here, only on Big Fox.